One thing I don't like about watching YouTube videos about trauma is how much we talk about trauma and sad stuff and problems. And I know the problems are real, but everything you do to work on those problems can go nowhere if you're not also learning to lift your mood, to actually generate flashes of joy, because that is what you need to give you the strength to persevere in the daily work of healing old patterns and changing your life. And I mean changing for real, a change. This is why my favorite video that I've made is one that tells you actual literal things that you can do right now to lift your mood and feel better. And I'm bringing this back from the archive for you right here because, well, we need to feel better. In order to heal, we need to start by feeling better. It can't be put off. So here it is. What I'm about to say is going to challenge a lot of people watching right now, but here it is. No matter what's going on in your life, it's possible to lift your mood and feel happier even when the circumstances of your life are depressing and hard. Now, you can't solve all your problems at once, but feeling at least a little bit better is the first step, getting the inner power that you need to come up a little bit so that you can start making changes in your life. With that little bit of healing, you'll be clearer about your next steps. And when you keep on this path, one foot after the other, you can actually heal from the past and start making the changes in your life that will make your continuing happiness possible. Change and healing are definitely possible, especially when you know how to increase your inner power a little bit when you need to. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, saying that you can feel happier today is almost countercultural. A lot of people are invested in the idea that, well, there's the pessimist. The damage is done. Happiness is gone forever. The world is a terrible place. And I've suffered all these losses. And I know that's true. I've suffered the losses too. There's some truth in this pessimistic thinking that there's no hope at all, but really it's just another self-defeating behavior to become totally identified with the problem and completely resistant to the solution. And at the other end of the spectrum are people who say that suffering is just a state of mind and you just need to visualize your awesome reality. And well, that's just bypassing this inconvenient truth that healing your life actually does involve self-awareness and actual change. There's effort involved. And somewhere between those two are so-called like helpers who tell you, well, healing is possible, but the only way to get there is to get really, really sad and dwell more on what happened to you. And it's going to take a long time. And if you tell them that, hey, it doesn't feel like it's working for me, they'll say, well, it has to get a lot worse before it gets better. Well, I wouldn't listen to those people. And that's the pessimists, the bypassing optimists, and that it's got to feel really bad and that's going to go on for a long time. All of it. These are three places where I see people who have trauma get really stuck. And the fact is, if you're carrying trauma around, becoming free of it is going to be a lot of small and practical changes that you sustain over time. And you can do that. And it does need to help you feel better, like quickly. Today, it needs to feel better. When life gets hard, you need a way to get emotional relief when you need it. And then you need practical day-by-day strategies to stay feeling happier and to build that happy life. So I want to show you some simple and practical ways to get an instant lift for your mood and energy. Even just a little positive change is worth it, and it can lead to the big changes that you're looking for. And you might find that these little steps I'm going to show you lead to much more than little changes and a little bit of uplift. Sometimes really good things happen. And I know this because I'm someone who has had a lot of suffering in my life. I've had good things, but I've had long periods of loneliness, the death of people I love, medical problems, very serious ones, financial problems, and definitely relationship problems. And here's the thing. I learned to be happier before these problems were solved. Being happier gave me so much more power to see the solutions and to take action. So these are simple strategies that you can use whenever you're in a bad place, depressed, angry, dysregulated, exhausted, feeling like you can't pull yourself together or you can't pop out of it. Now remember, you don't always have to know the reason you're feeling bad. What I'm teaching you doesn't depend on knowing that or any kind of knowledge at all. It's not about figuring out the past or making people apologize. It's none of those things. Those are nice. But sometimes it helps to take your focus off the past and off the pain for a while. And I'm not telling you to go into denial or to just repeat affirmations that the problems don't exist. You don't have to believe anything, in fact, to try this. You don't have to accept anything. I'm not someone who can really accept things that I don't believe in anyway. I tend to go on experience. If things feel fake, well, I just prefer to try things and see how it goes. If it works, adopt it. So try that with me. It's possible to influence your mood with practical actions that let you still be your real self, not lose track of the problems in your life that actually need solving at some point, and to get into the habit of feeling better so that you don't have to go through all the steps of getting there every time you're feeling down. It'll start to be your natural default state. So the first thing to do, are you ready, is to get up an hour earlier than you normally would. And I can hear the chorus of people going, I can't do that. I already have insomnia. I work a late shift. And you don't have to take any of my advice, and you don't have to do any of one particular thing in this list of things I'm going to give you. But I am going to say you can get up earlier. And yes, you might be a bit tired in the afternoon, but it's a good way to reduce the stress that makes mornings such a vulnerable time for overwhelm, for discombobulation, for dysregulation and depression. When you get up early and you get up out of bed, you're freeing yourself from both hurrying to get out of the house, which can be a major trigger for dysregulation, by the way, and you're freeing yourself from immobilization, where you stay in bed for too long after you wake up, which is like a big open door for depressed emotions. So get up an hour earlier, then get up out of bed. And what to do about being tired? Nothing. Being tired is not an emergency. Get a hot beverage if you enjoy that. I'm a coffee person. Maybe you are too, or you like something different, but get your beverage and then move forward to the second thing that you can do to feel happier, which is to do some writing. Now, some people write in their journals. I teach techniques that help you get your anxious and depressed thoughts out of your head and onto paper, which is different than journaling. If you want to learn my technique, you can always find the link to my free course called The Daily Practice down in the description section underneath all my videos. It's also on my website at Crappy Childhood Fairy, by the way. You can see everything that I offer there if you want to go there, crappychildhoodfairy.com. When you get your fear and resentment out of your head and onto paper, your mind gets a little vacation and your thoughts are free to happen. And maybe even inspired thoughts are going to visit you. Not just a bunch of worrying and rumination, but, constructive things that come to your mind. In my daily practice technique, there's a process to both name those negative thoughts and release them, or ask for them to be removed if you have a higher power, which I do. And it's so important that you don't write these fears and resentments as a form of ranting. Just, I hate this, I fear this, I fear resent that, but more as a process for naming and releasing those thoughts that are otherwise spinning the hamster wheel of doom in your mind. Hamster wheel of doom, do you have that? So you may relate to the fact that I wake up irritable and anxious sometimes, which is a complex PTSD thing. So this practice is important for me. It brings emotional fresh air that empowers me, and it empowers me to have a fruitful and productive and happy day. The third thing to do is to meditate. Now, I meditate for 20 minutes twice a day. If you can even do 5 minutes, it makes a huge difference. And by meditation, I don't necessarily mean anything difficult. You don't have to sit in a special way. You don't have to have an empty mind or focus on your breath or anything. You just rest with your eyes closed, maybe with a mantra, like a simple word like okay or this. Some word that reminds you that you're meditating but doesn't put a lot of demands. And don't use guided meditations. That's a completely different thing to put information in. You're not there to learn a new thing. You're there to release and rest. Now, you may have an established meditation practice, and if that's really easy for you, use that one. Now, a lot of people, I hear they criticize themselves and say, you know what, I can't really meditate. I just think so much. I do it wrong. And that's precisely why people like us need to meditate. It's because we have an active mind. a mind that is designed, in fact, to think. So we just give it a nice rest and take off all expectation that it'll be perfect or have no thoughts or be perfectly empty like a still pond. It's never like that, is it? It might not even feel like a good meditation, but you don't have to be good at meditating to just start meditating. You start where you are. You start writing fears and resentments on paper beforehand, which is how the daily practice is sequenced. Writing, then meditation, specific form of writing, easy meditation. They go together and it starts getting easier all around. The fourth thing for lifting your mood is to exercise hard. Now, there was a time when I had acute PTSD, and if you've ever heard my story, there have been a couple of times in my life where some really traumatic things happened, where the PTSD symptoms were so strong I could barely work or hold a conversation. My mind was seriously stressed, and it was scattered, and my body was having full adrenal freak out several times a day. And every time something reminded me of one particularly traumatic experience, when someone close to me had died, I'd flash back to the memory of that experience and adrenaline would whoosh through me and my heart would pound and my thoughts would scatter, and it was really debilitating. So this PTSD reaction had been going on for months, and I happened to see a doctor, and she said, well, how many times a day are you having these freak out episodes you're telling me about? And I was like, not that much, just like 10 or 20 times a day. And she said, okay, we're going to have to start putting you on some medication. Well, I didn't want to do that. And the reason is I had such a dramatic healing from terrible depression earlier on in my life. And when I first found my daily practice, I recovered from that depression. I never went down to that place again. And I felt like I'd gone from such a chaotic mental state to such a good one. I really have not wanted to mess with psychoactive drugs, lest I go back to that place where I thought I would never get out of. And so I try to avoid antidepressants. So I didn't want to do it. I told her I'd come back in a couple weeks, though. And instead of taking drugs, I told her I would try some other things. And I went online and I searched, what does a person do if they can't stop going into panic mode all day? And one thing suggested was to go exercise hard. And lo and behold, it worked. I couldn't believe the doctor never mentioned this to me, but I figured it out for myself. Now, what does exercising hard mean? It can be different depending on what you're used to doing, but you want to get your heart rate up for at least 20 minutes. If you're able to run, that's really good. If that's more than you can do, you can walk for 20 minutes. If you can walk briskly, all the better. If you can walk for an hour, that's a good thing too. When you're in the middle of a life crisis, give yourself a good bit of exercise. Walk till it tires you out. If you're not able to walk, do what you can to get your body moving and your heart rate just gently up for a while. And if you can do that in nature even, that's better. I'm sure you have had experience with how good that feels. So that's why number 5 is to do your exercise or do anything at all outside. Go outside. Outside is where the sun is on you, and even if it's cold or wet weather or gray, your brain likes to know what's going on outside. What day is it? What season is it? You're like a little cat in the window. Hey, what's going on? This is part of neurological regulation. And so being outside helps you get regulated and calibrated and feel normal in your body, which helps you sleep normally and feel hungry at the right time. And normal sleep and normal eating aren't always easy for traumatized or depressed people or people who have gone through a big shock. But this can help nudge you in the right direction. And of course, the daylight is powerful medicine to move that depression away, to cue your brain. It's time to feel better. It's time to come out of it and to talk to your nervous system and coax it into normal rhythms. Now, also, if you're going to walk or run, it can be nice to do it instead of on a treadmill, to do it on a natural surface like up and down on the curb or on the sidewalk or on a dirt road where there's a little bit of unevenness, because your brain likes that. It likes that little bit of a challenge. It likes to sense the changes on the surface and balance you and feel like it's a little bit slippery here, so you slow down, and here it's downhill. And those little changes in your perception of space, they feel good to your nervous system. So much of what's going on with complex PTSD, especially when you're struggling with your mood or feeling physically deadened, is that there's dysregulation going on in your brain and nervous system and emotions, and it makes everything harder and clunkier and duller. So people who are traumatized as kids are extra prone to dysregulation. Luckily, we all instinctively know how to re-regulate. It's not always easy when you're feeling stressed and sad, but the techniques I'm teaching you will help you get re-regulated faster and stay regulated more of the time. Number 6 is to do your movement in a group if you can. Movement together with other people. Other people, I know they're so triggering, right? But hanging out with them can be very therapeutic, even if you're not talking to them. When you're following verbal instructions like you do in a kickboxing class or ballroom dancing or yoga, where the instructor is calling out, okay, now put your right foot over here, left kick, or twirl to the right, and everybody twirls to the right. They don't know why exactly yet, but it amplifies the beneficial effect of the movement that you're doing it together with other people. And hearing and responding with your body to the verbal instructions left and right also accelerates your recalibration and the re-regulation of your brain. And it brings you out of that PTSD fog. And there's a center line in your body. And so one of the things you can also do is use exercises that cross that line. So instead of just, put my right hand out, I put my right hand on my left shoulder, and there's like just a little boost of amplification to the re-regulating effect of that movement. It's helpful. So number 7 is to eat some protein with every meal. Overeating, and particularly sugar and high carb processed food, is very strongly correlated with complex PTSD. Part of it is we just need to grab something easy, but part of it is also there's an emotionally numbing effect from carbing up like that. A lot of breakfast foods like toast and donuts and cereal are just pure fast carbs, and they will take your energy and they'll whoosh them up and then they'll crash them down. And anything that's making your hormones, and hormones are what govern your digestion and your hunger and your sense that it's time to eat. So anything that's making your endocrine system, your hormones spike up and then crash down, then that tends to be a little triggering for PTSD symptoms as well. So a little bit of advice is to make sure that you're eating protein with your meals, even if you're eating carby foods too. Just get some in there. If you were going to have toast, have an egg on toast, or have some, chia pudding and toast. If sweets and carby foods tend to trigger overeating in you, you might want to check out the food plan I follow, which is very flexible, whether you're vegan or a carnivore, whatever you are. It's a way of eating that helps minimize the spikes in insulin and helps restore your leptin levels, which is the hormone that responds to insulin. That program, they have a food quiz, a food susceptibility quiz. It's called Bright Line Eating. The link to the food quiz is down in the description section below, very near the bottom. You can take that quiz and find out if you have a very common trauma symptom where you're highly susceptible to kind of addictive eating of high carb foods. It would explain a lot, right? So if you've had some trauma in the past and you're like me, you're vulnerable to feeling overwhelmed. Eating too many fast carbohydrates can make you feel numb and scattered and make you feel worse because it's hard to get anything done, which of course leads to more overwhelm later. So this is number 8, to get out of overwhelm and work deliberately on good, useful activities for yourself and for the people around you. It can be good to make a list. So for me, every morning after I meditate, I make a list of the most important things that I'd like to get done that day. And I know that there's a lot of stuff on my list that I'm probably not going to get to, and I'm okay with that. But I therefore zero in on the top 3, the 3 most important things for me to get done that day. And even then, I can't always do the 3 things. So I zero in on the top 1 thing, and I take them in order, and I make sure that the most important thing on my list gets done first. I make that the top priority. Now, sometimes when I'm choosing what's going to be the top priority, I'll choose the one that's the hardest, so I can eliminate the sense of dread that comes with having a hard thing ahead of me during the day. Number 9, this one's kind of special, but if you just want to get your spirits up, fight the urge to talk about anything negative. We've been conditioned that if we're feeling bad about something, we should talk to as many people as possible, talk more about it, especially if you're a woman. Have you noticed this? When people say, hey, how you doing? It's really easy to give the whole terrible story like, well, oh gosh, this thing is going on and it's so hard, and you know all the stuff going on in the world, and I've got a headache, and my neighbor lost her job, and you won't even believe the blah, 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 blah. So if you want to change your mood, I just encourage you to experiment with not talking about it. Don't talk about the thing that's bothering you. Keep your focus on where you're trying to go on the stuff that's positive for you. Now keep in mind, I'm not saying to never talk about what's bothering you. Sometimes, obviously, it's purposeful and important to talk to somebody about things that are bothering you. So I'm not saying go into denial or pretend nothing is bad. Just try experimenting with not talking about the thing that's bothering you, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to have your mood start going in a completely new direction. You're not constantly reminding yourself how upset you are about something, right? So this is also good when you're trying to get over someone after a breakup. Stop talking about that person. Not only don't call them, don't look at their social media, just stop talking about them, good or bad. All right? Number 10, and there's a question to ask yourself. What am I avoiding? A lot of times a depressed mood is really just a sense of dread about something you're avoiding. And it could be something like you're avoiding something that you need to learn for work, right? Or you're avoiding getting in touch with someone who you know you owe a phone call. Or you're not taking care of a problem that needs your attention, like you have a kid who is falling behind in school and you haven't dealt with it. It brings you down. You might be avoiding a task that you need to do and it's bothering you. And I'm sure you've noticed that it can ruin all your free time, worrying about it or procrastinating on it while you think about doing it, but you don't do it. So you can write, what am I avoiding? Make a list and see if you can find the next right action for you to take there to give yourself that good feeling of accomplishment, knowing that you're taking care of your life, you have integrity. And finally, this is my favorite part. If you really want to have a good day, find something kind that you can do for somebody where they won't find out who did it for them. If they find out, you don't get to check it off for that day, having done your good deed. It's a secret that you have. The reason I say do this secretly is because if there's any chance that you're going to get credit or be thought of as this really nice person, it can sometimes dilute the beneficial effect, the deep benefits of doing a kindness for someone. You're doing this for your own happiness, and if it helps someone else, that's really good. If you can call somebody who you know is having a hard time, make that phone call. You can put your neighbor's empty trash cans back in their driveway after pickup. You can go put a few quarters in somebody's parking meter when you see it's expired. If you can't afford to pay for other people's parking, you can give someone a kind word, and this is the best one. You can just say, you know what, you're doing a great job, or you can compliment them and say, the way that you just explained that to somebody was so clear. You have a knack for that. Be real with them. Don't make stuff up. If it's appropriate to put a hand on their shoulder, it isn't always, but if it is, that can make the kindness of your words feel even stronger and more impactful. The point is to pay attention to what other people have done that is deserving of a compliment and just give that to them. People need it far more than you realize. When you do that, you become an agent of good, which is really what you're made for. Life feels good when you remember this, and you remember it by acting like it, even when the motivation isn't really there at first. You don't wait to be motivated. You can just go through the motions, and the benefit comes to you. Even when you're sad, the good things that you do could have a big impact on someone else who is suffering, and that counts too. When you witness their spirits come up, your spirits can't help but brighten up too. Do you wish you wrote down all these points? I have something for you. It's a free PDF and you can have a copy. You can download it. I list these 11 points. It's a download called 11 Tips to Feel Happier Today. You can access that right there, and I will see you very soon.